Alright, greetings everybody, and welcome to a very tight Umbra still. That's right. Burning the midnight oil and waking up early to do the video. That's right. Well, Wotv calc data is out. We're going to take a look at that. We're also going to take a look at a few other bits and bobs to do. So this is a Sephiroth data video, but it is also a other stuff video. So you're getting so much value packed in. It just gotta feel good. All right, so first off, let's talk about Sephiroth, the morning after. Now Sephiroth has been rated by game 8, and as of right now, interestingly, he has not been rated yet by Wotv calc. That might just be because it's Golden Week and it's a little bit awkward, and because people are out doing stuff, so possibly, I'm not entirely sure. But the point remains that Sephiroth, from a Game 8 perspective, is that he is very, 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 very strong. He has been put up to Tier 0 at this point. And it is tentative because Sephiroth, at the very least, is incredibly powerful, as we're about to look at. But I'm a little bit concerned about his survivability, but it could just be that we haven't found the exact team for him yet. And let's be honest, if you take a look at the majority of the recently come out in the support of katanas, mostly been for magic katana because of Dario, which is a tiny bit awkward to get a good bearing on where this character is. So I think the VC next week is going to be slightly important for his actual performance. And not only that, a lot of globalers have been saying, and JP players have been like, Thunder O, where is O, the young version of him? If that's the case, that is another katana user which could lend support to this in future. And O also has like artwork and everything, so it could be very likely that we see that character. But I digress. Let's take a look at the data and what exactly we have to say here. So getting through some of the other stuff, the Starlight Sword as well as Lucio seem to be getting prepped for some stuff, and that's fine. But this is one of the things that I want to look at first. It's an accessory for another story 3 for Mont, Bulk, Ketone, and last but not least, Oldoa. And it can be equipped by everybody. There is a shield version, barrier version, and a vitality version. And the interesting thing here is that conditionally it does give extra human killer when HP is 70%, and human resistance. Well, so it's a little bit of survivability and a little bit of offense, and resistance. It's not a bad accessory. I think that it's pretty interesting, and I probably at least one of these, although I can never see two. Something we didn't talk about last night on last night's stream was Sephiroth's sword, which has a critical version, an aim version, and a alt version. 185 attack. The benefits for Sephiroth here: increase slash attack, decrease EP consumption, reduce physical damage taken the larger the AoE size, and increase slash attack resistance penetration of 20 for any character that equips it. But this is Sephiroth's weapon. It's very powerful for him, and it does give a multitude of benefits that are quite nice. I can see this being probably the thing that most everybody. Alright, so on to the big guy himself. 100 cost fire elemental character, 3 move, 1 jump. We do know that one of his supports does give an extra jump. Taking a look at his accessory, the Black Feather, which grants haste at 42%. for 4 turns, and accuracy of 30. Pretty much what I thought it was going to be. It was very unlikely, based on the Japanese, that it was going to be anything higher than 30, and that holds true. It does have 2 casts at 24 TP, and a haste accessory for 4 turns is quite strong. It is not considered to be the highest of the MR tiers of things that you could possibly get out there, but it is very, very strong. Haste should never, ever be underestimated. So it is a good thrust mastery. Master ability, single target resistance and acquired AP of 30%. Dream ability, healing power up and debuff weakening effect means it's harder to debuff Sephiroth for what he does have, and upgrades one of his skills. So yeah, just taking a look at this with the weapon very clearly, he has a lot of stuff in a lot of different categories. Single target resistance, he has healing power up, which makes his healing better. Debuff effect weakening of 15 for the debuff. And it's interesting because like that could be good in combination with specific stuff, but it's specific stuff that I don't feel a lot of other characters are running, so it might be more work to get this guy into a position where he looks incredibly strong. Peachin is already, just an aside really quickly, Peachin did release a video this morning where he is basically positing a bunch of different teams, from mono fire all the way to just katana base to water and fire to a bunch of different things. So it'll be interesting to see how that exactly shapes out. A lot of his theory crafting though is based on the VC that is coming out next week, so hang on to your butts for a couple of weeks to see how this character really ends. Alright, support skills we didn't talk about before, but yeah, this one right here is the big one. Reduces damage taken by 50% for 4 times. Originally when you get Sephiroth, you will only have basically a single one-time barrier, sorry. Which isn't that good. Getting him into EX feels incredibly important since his survivability from most people's perspective thus far has not been amazing. His HP is also not as high as one would have kind of expected. He does feel a little bit lackluster compared to Doom as well as Mont in terms of HP. Really at this point, Ash and Mont and Doom feels like a little bit like they made a mistake with just how strong those characters are, as quite a few newer characters so far feel a little bit behind. But yeah, with that being said, Sephiroth is clearly stronger than Cloud. I should be saving this. It is a thing too that I am just keeping an eye on here to see what is what. Trying to open something else because we are missing. Okay, right. So increased defense penetration rate, slashing attack resistance penetration, area attack resistance penetration rate, and creates a barrier that reduces damage at the start. So important things to note that I really want to highlight here also is that it is just damage taken. It's good for physical or magical, and it does activate every time a battle starts. That does mean that Sephiroth has a bit of just automatic capabilities for staying alive, which is pretty good. Defense penetration 40 and slash resistance 40% is also very, very good for getting through most of the resistances that are out there, in combination with the other sources that he has for resistance penetration. But also just talking about this other effect where basically he has AoE resistance penetration just naturally from his support skill, which should not be underestimated, as in combination with someone like Doom, I think is totally possible, especially if the VC supports it, would mean that an AoE team has a lot of extra firepower. Interestingly, for flavor, depending on how you want to say that when it comes to characters, agility of 12% is good, 200% chance for float, so he does float, and jump increase of 1 means that he does have pretty high mobility. I almost wish that it was move instead of jump, but comme ci comme ça. We'll have to see how it goes. Taking a look, also Axe Knight gives decrease of AP consumption, which does feel a little bit of overkill, but can make his kit in combination with everything that he has just really, really dirt cheap. But since he does have access to AP regeneration, this feels a little bit disability. Next up, increased attack of 60%. Some people on stream noted that his attack power seemed quite low, and compared to Doom and Mont, well, reincarnations were a factor. but 60% attack boost for a minor amount of resistance decrease might actually be the ticket for people who are looking. And last one, just HP up and elemental chain resistance. Generally fine, but I feel like his main two ones are the ones you're always going to be running. But float, I mean, if you had an extra source of agility, it could be theoretically okay if you were to switch out for the soldier one. It's something I'll keep an eye on. But yeah, building this character does have some question marks, at least for me. Taking a look at counter chance. This is one that I had not thought too terribly much about before, and now I'm starting to think a little bit more, because soldier is just not interesting. You can throw that in there. However, when it comes to his own 15% chance to evade a physical attack, which, given the amount of reaction block, doesn't feel super likely, but it is pretty good against, just the mass amount of meta for anyone who doesn't have block. Excuse me. But Axe Knight is one that I'm actually trying to look at, because at a 30% chance, has a higher chance of actually happening and increases AoE resistance for one turn for allies that are around him. I think that it's potentially interesting and should not be undervalued, and maybe is the one that you actually should be running as opposed to his main one. I mean, I can see why his primary would just be generally good to make sure that he evades stuff, but I am really interested in this AoE resistance, since it would kind of answer one of the problems that I think he has right now, which is more resistances in combination with the debuff weakening effect. Before his barrier actually gets removed, it would make him just generally strong against that, where he's naturally kind of pretty good against more single target resistance. So I am contemplating that. Speaking of which, let's jump all the way down. Limit Burst. Before we get into talking about Axe Knight, Soldier, and his main kit, Limit Burst here is just insanely good. Decreases all elemental resistance by 20%, which is talked about previously. 240% does mean that he, like Joom, can support a multi-element team with Thunder and Lightning. Actually be a really good thing here in combination with Thunder Asterius, which would also cover his weakness against water. But the curse status effect is just incredibly accurate. For the most time, unless you get unlucky, it's going to strike an opponent, and it will probably be good for a long time. We've already talked about curse, but just canceling out all healing off of opponents is potentially really well, it's strong. But the one thing, while I was testing him out in Arena the previous night, I did have issues where there were times where it felt like he should be casting his ability, this Limit Burst, and he wasn't. It might have been AP issues, since he did not have his own katana equipped, which is a major source of like AP decreased in cost. So it might have been actual AP cost that was true, but I would recommend, while his Limit Burst is strong, I'm a little bit interested in whether his AI was actually properly targeting it, whether that was a bug. But anyway, moving on. Axe Knight I had high hopes for. He does have strike resistance, elemental chain resistance, defense, which is a nice extra buff, but I don't ever want to take away from him using his own buffs that we really do want. Taking a look as well, he does have a healing ability which does synergy, and he does have remove counter, he has move unit panel, and he has damage with sleep. All three of these just don't feel better than his original kit though, so I'm saying Axe Knight is probably one. Soldier, on the other hand, might be interesting. He does have absorb TP, which could be theoretically in a long drawn out fight, but here the 50% attack boost might make up for his kind of initial attack. For only 10% HP, since he doesn't have the highest amount of HP, it's not the worst thing in the world that he consumes a little bit for a little bit of power. Also, 100% chance for paralyze is a thing that he can do. He can inflict doom and disable. Too short of range to potentially be really good most of the time, but it is an option. I do think that Soldier might be something that's, because in his main kit, the Berserk chance is just incredibly low. it has almost no chance of happening from what I've seen on most characters, so I think it's just thrown out. As for the restore HP, it is very strong to have a 40% HP heal. Whether his AI will use it so far seems to be a general no. He is an offensive AI, he will support at the start of the fight, but once they get into battle, healing just doesn't seem to be an option. So maybe this attack buff and some extra status effects with higher chances would be generally better. As for his main kit, there isn't too terribly much to say here. His counter skill that he gets is pretty likely to go off when against strike or slashing. He does have a debuff weakening effect of 30 for 4 turns, which synergizes what we talked about. Critical evasion of 50 is very high for 4 turns. The reaction block rate of 100 is also pretty neat, but I would recommend that if from at least initial testing that done previously on the stream, that you would cancel out TMR skills that you are not interested in if you want this to actually activate, as most of the time he will not prioritize this, it feels like. So it is something, if you want that counter skill and you value it, you should probably go there. Decreasing slash attack by 60 for 3 turns. It's not slash attack resistance, which is something I made a previous error about, but just slash attack. So really, Sephiroth does have a pretty strong ability. I do wish, however, that it was kind of a multi-target and may have been a little bit too much, but I think it would have been okay on this ability to handle multiple attackers and get through tanks. Generally sure up Sephiroth's defensive capabilities for this debuff, unless it is actually slash attack resistance. Double check my other source, because you know Wotv calc's not. Yeah, see, the translation from website says slash attack resistance penetration. Yeah, reduces slash attack resistance for 3 turns, whereas on Wotv calc it is decreased slash attack. So that's curious. I will test that. I do believe from last night's stream, I'm a little tired, but I do believe that it was resistant because it is 60% crit. So that's a misprint on Wotv calc. All right, taking a look at the wall of text ability, AoE resistance is 25, just to fill those numbers in, 10% AP regeneration, and 20% elemental resistance, was something we already found. But in terms of the dispel, so grant a following effect for hit upon allies, dispel haste if the target has 1 or more following effects, if the target has 1 more re-raise, restore, so there is just a massive wall of stuff that this ability does. Thankfully, the good news here is that he is always casting from my initial testing. He loves this, and it is a good source of AoE resistance, which makes him harder to kill. Next up, reduce physical damage taken for larger attack size for targets and magical attack. That is just defense penetration of 40, and as you can see, it does absorb 50% of the damage done, which if you get a bunch of targets in there, sure. Again, probably want to see where Sephiroth is going to be getting his extra human killer, as I assume that's on the rocket. But if it is on the event accessory from like Cloud cell phone, that would greatly power up this, having extra ways of killing people as you do. And decrease AoE resistance. It is a big hit area, and it does gain 100% hit chance in 40, which deals with, you know, accuracy issues and pretty good overall. So yeah, Sephiroth's kit is like full and strong. That much is very clear to me. Whether or not Sephiroth will find an immense amount of success is kind of dependent on, you know, just in general, how, like, what team he finds into and what the last piece of the puzzle are, maybe even what the next few Wotv characters are. If there's another Katana character hiding behind this event, it could really power this character up fast. But what, at least from a JP perspective, he doesn't feel like an as immense power creep as we have kind of seen ever since that Ashimont and Joom upgrade, that the characters have kind of a little bit, the power spike has kind of plateaued a little bit. There's no doubt that Sephiroth is one of the strongest characters in the game, but, and to end this video with something that I think is very, very important to note, this does not discredit Ashimont from being one of the most powerful characters. While Sephiroth does a lot against him, Sephiroth also has some survivability issues, which, you know, if he gets rid of, once you get rid of that barrier, he does potentially die. So he maybe needs a higher focus on HP. I don't even know 100% where I stand on it right now. I think it'll be quite an interesting battle between Joom, well, let's say 4. Joom, Cloud, Mont, and Sephi here as to what the final and strongest teams. We're finally starting to get a little bit more of a spread out of characters that are just generally strong, that are incredibly strong in multiple different elements, and that means that we should see some variety and team building stuff start to get a little more electric. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video. I know it's quite long, but Sephiroth is a major character. I did want to spend a lot of time picking through all of this, see where his weaknesses are, give my thoughts and theories about stuff, and see how it develops. But as always, thanks so much for supporting the channel, and as a final thing in this video before I go put on some videos and fall asleep for a little bit, I do want to say that the YouTube stream was a ton of fun last night. Normally on Twitch lately, it feels like viewership has considerably dropped as maybe more people have just migrated over to YouTube, but it might be something where Wotv streams are just permanently on YouTube, because viewership is important to me. I do this obviously because it's fun, but making a little bit of scratch, it does help the support. Thank you so much for supporting me. Hope to see you more on live streams. See you later, and happy hunting for Globalers. A little bit later after this video comes out will also be a can you slow build Ashimont, my opinions. Thanks so much for watching.